A father and son are arrested in Brookhaven allegedly for shooting at a FedEx driver on January 24th.
A white father and son facing charges for allegedly opening fire on a black FedEx driver.
Can we just go back and you explain to me what happened that day?
Alright, so it was just like a normal day for me. Like, I'm just delivering my packages. I usually start like early in the morning around 7 and I end around the same time at night. So it was like around 7:30, it was already kind of dark when I went out there. But I had accidentally put in the wrong address in my GPS or whatever. So I was actually about to leave the neighborhood and mark it as an incorrect address. But as I was leaving, I seen a house that may have had the correct address to my left on the mailbox. So I checked my, I forgot what the thing is called. Leo. I checked my Leo, which is my work device. And just to confirm the address, and it was correct. So I turned around in this yard. I proceeded back to the correct address to deliver the package. I hopped out, put the package down, and got back in. As I'm proceeding to leave the yard, it's a white pickup truck coming from a house in the background, the same plot of land. So they get like extremely close to me. They start blowing their horn. At this point, I'm just thinking like I'm in their way. I proceeded to try to leave the driveway, and like the guy tried to cut me off, but my instincts kicked in. I swerved around him. I drive down about 2 or 3 houses. There's another guy standing in the middle of the street holding a gun, pointing at my window like this. He just like mouthing the word stop me. He's doing his hand like this. So you know, at this point I'm still in like survival mode. I shake my head, no, I have behind the steering wheel. Swerve around him as well. When I swerve around him though, he's up firing shots into the back of my van. You know, and then I drive down the road. I'm still going at this point. I drive down the road as I'm proceeding to leave the neighborhood. One of my bosses actually called me, and she heard some of the shots going off. So she told me to get back to the station as fast as I can. I start heading that way. Like, I'm not stopping at no lights or nothing. I noticed the white pickup truck still behind me at this point, and they chased me all the way out the city to the highway. After I make it to the highway, I drive down about 10, 15 minutes. Then that's when I like started feeling a little bit safer because I ain't seen no behind me no more. And I called my boss or whatever. I let him know what was going on. And he was like, we'll file a police report tomorrow. I knew like if I had to wait until the next day, they was gonna ask me like, why you ain't come in tonight? So I went ahead and took it upon myself to call them. Once I called them, I reached the dispatch and I started telling him like half my story before he cut me off. He asked me like, were you at this address right here? And I was like, yes sir. He was like, well, we just got a report of a suspicious person coming from the address. And I said, sir, I'm not a suspicious person. I'm a FedEx worker. I was just doing my job. And I had told him that they shot at me as well. He was like, well, they didn't tell us that, you know, of course they were. So at some point in the conversation, I told him that me and my boss would be coming up there in the morning, so I asked him, could I finish my story? He was like, well, if y'all come up here tomorrow, I'm gonna just take your name down and give it to my supervisor. At that point, I went back to the station. The supervisor who actually called me while I was going on, we checked the back of the van. It was like bullet holes all in the back of the van, inside packages that was like right behind me, all type of stuff like that. So we had to fill out a report for work, and once I did that, they let me go home. I came back the next day, and we went to the police station to fill out a report as well. And when I got there, they wasn't taking me serious. I dealt with 3 officers. The first one, he was like taking down my statement, and I was just telling him everything that was going on, but he kept switching on my words. So I tell him like, this is what happened. He was like, so this is what you're saying happened? I'm like, no sir, this is what happened. He did that about 3 or 4 times before we got the story right. After that, it was a second officer who was like basically observing the conversation. He asked me, he was like, well, let me ask, did you do anything to make them think you were suspicious? Which, of course, I was just doing my job. But I told him like, I was just doing my job. If that made them think I'm suspicious, that's on me. And even if I did, citizens can take the law into their own hands regardless. But the third officer I dealt with, he actually made me write down the statement as to what happened in my own words. After we did that, we went back to the crime scene. The first house we went to was the house where the white pickup truck came from. And they got a few statements from that house. We went to the next house, which is the house of the shooter. And I guess they tried to get statements for somebody there. While we was there, it's like what the actual shooter happened. They was looking for bullet holes or whatever. And bullet shells. They were looking for bullet shell casings. And like at one point he came up to the car and he was like, well, you see that we trying, right? And I'm like, you know, why he asked me that? And I was like, okay. So he actually asked me to get out the car at that point if I wanted to help them look for bullet cases, which I did. After that, we didn't find any. Of course, they was trying to hide it, but we went to the job with the dude who actually shot at me, and he was first denying that he shot at me. He said he didn't shoot at me, which is why we didn't find no bullet shells, except for one case that I had in the back of my truck when I went back to the station. I didn't mention that, but that's the only one that we found. He said I tried to run out with his dad, which is untrue. So they gave him like a certain amount of time to come in, which I never seen them not arrest somebody right away. But they let him come in when he wanted to, which was like 8 days later. And like we just left that day, nothing was done that following day. And that's basically the initial story to how everything was happening. And we have received we have been protesting as well, and we have received like police backlash. They've been protecting the victim, the shooters, more than they've been trying to protect me or whatever. And they've been getting us like all type of roadblocks. So just like we went to the courthouse and everything. So they trying to roadblock us, and it's just like a long hard trial right now, but it's okay.
Okay. So in clarification in this, you're telling me that after you were shot at like this, you talked to the police. They even asked you to get out the car and do their job after you've been through this traumatic situation, and they want you to look for shell casings. Yes, and then they told them to come in when they're ready to speak to them instead of arresting them.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just ask you a question that I know that is probably the obvious answer that you're going to give. If the colors and the races were reversed, do you think that they would have given you the opportunity to come in when you were ready?
They would have came and got me that night.
Absolutely.
It would have been the following day. Also, if I didn't mention, they actually did end up turning themselves in like 8 days later. But they didn't even stay in jail an hour. They got up like within the next hour.
Now, do you know what are their charges that they're being charged with?
Conspiracy and aggravated assault.
That's it. So no hate crime.
No hate crime.
No attempted murder.
No attempted murder. We've been trying to get those charges ready, but like I said, we met with like a whole bunch of roadblocks. So.
Okay. And so and then again, the police are not cooperating with you. They're treating you as though you're the bad guy, right?
This is exactly what's going on. All right, so when I first started, I came straight down. I was looking for 427 because like, that's what I put in, but it don't exist. So I came straight down here. I'm looking to the sides. When we go down, you're gonna see it say 417 and 405. I ain't see 427, so I thought it was an incorrect address. I had turned around, I came, and I had stopped right here. Like after I seen the address, I had stopped by right here in this area or whatever. And I had checked my Leo. Of course, I put in just to double check to see if it was the right address. And it was, so it ended up being that one. So I turned around right here, and I had drove back down to this down here, so we can go to this house and not finish telling the story.
Okay. Mom, how did this situation make you feel? If you want to go back and just kind of tell me, like, when did you find out that this happened to your son?
I found out the same night that it actually happened. He called me, and I thought it was a joke. But when he sent me the actual footage and the pictures of the bullet holes, the packages that were shot up, I knew it was true. It made me feel very, very angry. And the reason why it made me feel angry is because I had thoughts going in my head as to the lies I would have to hear if he did not make it. If he did stop and they killed him. We know bullets, guns probably would have been planted on him. He shot at me, or he stole something, which was one of the things that they did say. He stole a package. How he stole a package being a FedEx driver? Why would he steal a package? And I mean, it's just crazy because the police chief there, Kenny Collins, is black. But our skin folks ain't kin folks.
Absolutely.
So he actually is upholding them. They have been giving these guys 24-hour surveillance since last 2 weeks ago. Saturday before our last protest, they have been having 24-hour surveillance.
So they've been giving the criminals in this case, they've been giving them protection?
Yes,
is
they
what you're
have.
saying?
Yes.
Hey, I'm Sherelle. I'm the commander of Jacksonville Black Panther Party. And we had to step in to take the role of being security for DeMonterio for the simple fact that the police was protecting the suspect but not the victim. So they have tried to intimidate him, following him, different things like that. So we're having to step in by any means necessary to make sure that this brother is protected.
They have been getting 24-hour protection.
Wow, this just keeps getting even more disrespectful as we go, right?
Yes, but the thing is, the kidding part is that two of the guys that's on the police force are their cousin. They are their cousin. One of them actually stepped down. The leading investigator actually stepped down because he said it was a conflict of interest, which made them cousins. And they also found out that the assistant chief is supposed to be his cousin. So they are trying to sweep it under the rug, but we're not going to let it happen.
Okay.
We're definitely not going to let it happen. I'm actually doing protests every 2 weeks. We're asking for upgraded charges from the aggravated assault to attempted murder and hate crime.
Yeah, standing with Brother DeMonterio Gibson is important. JoJo Virgil, also a community activist in the state of Mississippi. This incident that happened, of course, is more than tragic, and it has brought a lot of stories out and a lot of skeletons in Brookhaven. You know, a lot of untold stories that mothers and parents and fathers and people have been crying out for years to let Brookhaven know that they're not doing what they're supposed to do as a community. So we stand strong with DeMonterio because this is part of his wishes, is to make sure that everyone else who has been denied justice through Brookhaven's system, that they get justice, and the community is starting to speak. So we rally behind him and his mother and the community of Brookhaven in support.
Let me ask the both of you. You've heard of Ahmaud Arbery's case. Yes. At what point or at any point did his case cross your mind?
Instantly.
It was actually brought to my attention a lot later because at first I was really just like reluctant about speaking up, but then people started telling me they was like, your case is kind of similar to his. The only difference is like you survived and he didn't. So you know, at that point I felt like it was my responsibility to like speak up for the people who couldn't, because it's very rare when you find a person who survives anyway. So yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you. I heard you say on the news report that I watched. You said that something about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard something where your company FedEx, they wanted to send you back to work in the same neighborhood after it happened.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
So what happened was, as soon as we filed a police report, I had to go back and finish that same route, whatever. Like as soon as I left the station. So I think I may have finished it that day. I think I went back the following day. And like that's when I started realizing like I was having problems mentally functioning at work, because I started like having real bad anxiety. My heart started racing. I just started feeling real uncomfortable. So I called my boss. I let him know how I was feeling, and I had left that day. But yeah, it was basically they sent me back on the same route, and I was expected to work it. So
They just sent you back on the day. So they not offering you. They didn't offer you any time off in dealing with what you're dealing with, or anything like that.
Originally they offered me like 2 weeks off up to 2 weeks off without pay. And
without
then,
pay.
Yeah, at some point, like after everything started like bubbling up, when all the news reports was coming out, they started trying to offer me like 3 weeks to pay, which wasn't like even my full salary or whatever. Probably not even a quarter of my salary, but they offered me like 3 weeks to pay or something like that. Dead pass. They have paid for the therapy, like through an employee assistance program, so they are supposed to be doing that. We currently like working on the workman's comp thing, but originally it was just like up to 2 weeks off without pay. Like, you know, even though I have insurance and everything, it was gonna be without pay for whatever reason. I guess it doesn't qualify as under like, unless you were like physically injured or something like that.
So it doesn't account for the trauma and the emotional injury that it
That's what I'm thinking, because like I said, if it did, they would have paid me like no problem.
Okay.
It does. They just didn't want to pay. It's just FedEx want to stay out the limelight.
Of it. Well, it's probably not a good. If they want to stay out the limelight, they should probably do the right thing. Because I heard they weren't doing the right thing. That's why we brought that question up. You know. Let me ask you, Mom, as a black mom, not just a mom, because I think it's a difference in being a mom in this country and being a black mom in this country. Speak from the perspective for me of being a black mother and in this country knowing how we are treated. And we see a lot of these things, every day. We saw the Ahmaud Arbery case. There's always things left and right that are going on. So many don't even make the news, As we spoke, your son's situation was in the news for a moment. It's very quiet now, They're not talking about it mainstream anymore and all over the place. But to find yourself in that position and being black in this country, just talk about a little bit how you feel and what happened to him, and being his mother and being a black woman with a black son, and knowing that this 100% has everything to do with your race. I'm going to say that and throw that out there, because if you were white, that I don't believe they would have done that to you. If you were any other race, I don't believe they would have done that to you. And so talk about being his mom and having a black son and what it's like to raise them in this country, and knowing everything that he has to deal with. And for all the stories we see that it actually came knocking at your door. I think too often a lot of us see these situations on the news and we think they're so distant, and we don't think they can ever come knocking at our door. But it showed up at your door. How you feel about that?
All right. Again, angry. Would have never thought it would be me. Never thought. Even though I have always followed these types of stories, but I never thought it would be me, because I know my son. He has always wanted to work. So for it to hit my door, my step, it literally made my anxiety really. I had real bad anxiety too. So I know as a black mom, having a black son, even having a black child, they are born with a stripe of being black. We are actually not considered humans. So having to deal with it it's absurd. We're gonna have to do better. And for me, I try to convince him that he's speaking for those who can't speak for themselves.
Is what I'm hearing is that you also want to use your case at this time to fight for all of those that didn't receive justice.
Yes, man. That's been like my main priority, because of the simple fact that nobody spoke up in the past or try to come together in the past is the reason why it happened to me. And it's going to continue to happen unless we come together and bring light to other cases.
I actually got a chance to talk to my mother last week.
Okay, what was
She
that like?
actually sent me over her number. I talked to her for a while. I was supposed to call her back tomorrow. We're getting ready to have a big protest, a huge protest. We're gonna actually go protest Brookhaven again, but this one here we want it to be actually huge. And I want to actually ask her to come down and be a speaker. So she did tell me she'll do whatever I need her to actually do. She actually told me she felt that it was her son's story. Just my son lived. And also she was like, she's a very approachable woman. She did not act like she was like up here because of her son case. No, she did not. But it was good talking to her, because I know she has been in that situation and having to fight. I'm having to do the same fight she have to. And me, I'm just not gonna let this case die. Let me just say that. We're not gonna let this case die. We're gonna get everybody who actually played a part in this. And when they see me coming to Brookhaven, they know I'm not coming to play. They do know that. I'm actually trying to head to Washington, D.C. within the next few weeks, because DOJ and the FBI have not told us anything. They have not told us anything. They won't even give us a court date in Brookhaven as to when the trial going to be. The daddy had actually waived his right to a trial.
Some of the officers in the police station are related to the people who shot at you.
Yes, ma'am. From the information we have received, they are related to them, but they are denying it, though. So.
Assistant Chief Case is related to the Case family. They own Case Oil in town. The Case family has a relative that was the mayor.
Just to get off down there, but knowing you got to come here for the attempted murder, you got to come here with the federal for the hate crime. So he's waived his rights, which I have found out. I don't think they know we know, but we do know. that he did waive his right, but his son cannot waive his right. So I'm just gonna continue to fight. We're gonna continue to fight. If they think this is gonna die down, it won't.
And that's part of why we're here, because it's not supposed to die down. You know, I have to say that, and I think it's a sad thing to say for the reality of us in this country, but I think we would still be talking about you if you were dead.
Mm-hmm. Definitely would.
Absolutely. And because you're still here, we talk about it for a moment and it just goes away. So I agree with you. Black men are given the wrong image in this country. I think that, like you said, the mom said, you know, we're not human. They don't think we have feelings. They don't think that you're anything less than a thug and that nothing in your life is valued. But you're a human being. And see, as one black person to another, I see you as a young man. You could be my son, you know? Right. And so I see that in you, but it's a shame that the rest of the world doesn't see that. So just for a moment, can you tell me, from your perspective, what is it like being a young black man in this country? And then tell me the human that you are. Tell me a little bit about who you are as a person, aside from what people want to say, just looking at the color of your skin.
Well, first of all, like, we kind of got to live up to those stereotypes, whatever, because it's been like embedded in our subconscious so deep that we feel like we're not a man if we don't do certain things, like showing emotions. So, like, I still struggle with that now. I suppress my feelings a lot rather than like talk about it, because I really just feel like it's a sign of weakness. And I'm not gonna say if it's a good or bad thing, because like I feel like complaining don't really do nothing. Not saying complaining, but talking about your feelings, it's not really gonna change unless you want to change it for yourself. So again, we kind of got to live up to those stereotypes just because it's been placed on us. Like we kind of got to carry that burden. As far as being like a black man in America, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, so this like 98% black. Physically, I never like experienced racism, even though it is in Mississippi. Like I was around black people a majority of the time. Of course, it's like a whole different reason why I'm around black people. It's a different form of racism, but we talking about like the physical racism part. I never experienced it before. So like seeing it in real life, it was like a dream almost. Like I never thought something like that happened to me, if that makes sense.
Do you think sometimes as black people in this country watch the things on the news, like we talked about Ahmaud Arbery, there are a lot of things that happen, but a lot of times when we're in places that are predominantly black and maybe we're not dealing with those things every day on a major issue, there's, you know, small things that happen, you know, that affect our life and racism. You know, do you think sometimes it don't really hit us until it hit us?
No, I don't, because I actually have friends who went to like predominantly white schools all day, and they experienced like they might have been like the token black person or something like that, but you know, they still experience, they still see it, they still hear about it more than we would, because we around our people 24/7. So yes,
right. So sometimes when we're around all our people, yeah, I think we tend to maybe say we see the racism, but we see it on the news, we see it in other places. It doesn't come to our doorstep like that, you know. Okay, tell me a little bit about you as a person. You're a young man. Like, what are your goals, your aspirations? Tell me about you, because see, the country will tell you, like you said, men ain't supposed to show emotions. Y'all supposed to be so tough. But when things like this happen, you're a human being. You was traumatized. What you talk about feeling a certain way, you were having anxiety. You know, it may have even been the beginning of what is a panic attack because of everything that you were going through. And you are still a human being. And I think sometimes too often on our black men, you're told that you have to be so much and you have to hold so much in. And when you hold that stuff in and you internalize it, it's never good for you, right? But this is the way that our men have to live. So talk to me and let's let the viewers know, who are you as a human being?
The book part.
Yeah, the book part.
Yeah, I love to read. I ain't gonna lie. It's like I got like 100 books at home on the bookshelf. But like I like to write poetry. I write songs. I actually rap as well. I'm currently trying to start a clothing brand.
Okay.
And there's just like one of my goals is just like having multiple sources of income. I'm trying to figure out how to get the one first though. Of course, the job was supposed to be my gateway, but it's kind of on hold right now. But yeah, there's just like a few things that I like to do, or that I want to do rather.
Okay, I heard you say you read and you write poetry. Yeah, America might be surprised. They don't think that black men write poetry or that they read. Sometimes they think we don't even know how to read. Okay. In summing all of this up, let me ask you guys, both of you can answer, either one of you. What is your plan in moving forward in this?
I'm going to speak on it. So basically what we're going to keep doing is we're going to keep going to the ground in Brookhaven and protest every 2 weeks, just putting pressure on them. Like no matter if today they actually denied our, what was it? Permit to protest. Like it was like the first time. But you know, it just really strategies they're using against us to kind of discourage us from coming, but we're going to keep coming every time. I have my lawyer working on the case as well, so I trust him to do his job. He's been doing good so far. So that's the plan. We're just gonna keep putting pressure on him, and hopefully, like, everything comes to a close.
Mom, what are you looking for? What do you want in this situation? In the justice you're not getting, what would be justice? What is it that you guys are looking for in that?
The justice I'm looking for is the upgraded charges from aggravated assault to attempted murder, also the hate crime. We have already asked the chief of police, assistant chief, the detective, the leading detective, the leading investigator to all step down. We want them to actually resign. They already been served those terms. They're still saying they're not. But at the end of the day, once all this come out, because it's a lot more, we got a lot of stuff that we have been working on, and I can't give all that information out, but we definitely is on top of it. I think they all will be out of there very soon. And I mean, just about the whole department should be out of there. Because they're all working to hide evidence. They are allowing these suspects to get away with this whole crime. And it's because their family, when we went there last week, we found out that this family is the family that runs the town, plus the church, which is not our church, but they actually, whatever that church say do, that's what they go by. That's what they go by. And they've been doing this forever. We have a lot of people there, a lot of residents coming out. They had 10 unsolved crimes in 2015. 2 evidence up in the people's faces, the parents, the sisters. They just destroyed the evidence. Never looked at these cases. They have witnesses. They have confession letters. They're not doing anything.
So are you telling me that in this area then, what we're dealing with in 2022 is basically the same thing as the Ku Klux Klan when they were the police officers? They still are. They used to put their hoods on. So they stick together.
Yes.
They're, even in 2022, dismissing cases. The police are working together. They're all family. Mm-hmm. And this is why they let people get away with stuff.
Absolutely.
It sounds crazy, but it's like actually true.
This is actually true. Like, they had the KK there for our first rally.
Really?
They had KK there for our KKKs there for our first rally. We actually had to cancel the rally and bag out and go back and strategize. So we didn't show up, but they showed up. They had snipers on the building for a peaceful protest. This is what they do in that area. This area been going. Lamar Smith got killed in 1955 on the courthouse lawn in broad daylight. They know who killed him.
It's been constant corruption. They're protecting the Case family. 24-hour detail, 2 officers posted day and night. Kenny Sambo Collins has tried to falsely arrest myself, other members of our group. They try to intimidate him constantly, riding by us, circling around us. It's just been constant abuse of power and authority from the Brookhaven, Mississippi Police Department, and the refusal to 2 judges refused to sign written affidavits from him where he said that the case, Brandon Case and Gregory Case, committed attempted murder. They wouldn't hear it. They wouldn't sign the affidavit. They wouldn't go arrest them. It's just been a complete miscarriage of justice.
Killed him. They know exactly who killed him. And the guy walked. Nobody would say anything. So this has been going on long before this actually happened. This has been going on a long time. We have found so many cases. We have so many people coming forward. So many people talking. It's a lot.
Who are you in this situation? Why is it important for you to be here? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
My name is Marquell Bridges. I'm a community activist. This is my purpose. A lot of times I don't want to do it, but I've dedicated my life to this. Me and his mom actually connected, and then he's become a brother to me just because I have sons. And when I think about him, I encourage my sons to do the right thing. So when I think about this young man trying to work, make an honest living, not become a statistic and then he can't even do that. And just like Breonna, we can't sleep. Ahmaud Arbery, we can't jog, and now we can't even go to work with DeMonterio Gibson. The DA actually tried to break protocol and actually take the case. He told DeMonterio that we have to review the case first. But DeMonterio's lawyer is actually a judge and a lawyer, and he knows that's not proper protocol. They've actually been denying Carlos Moore. They won't tell him any court dates or anything to that nature. It's been pure evil, pure racism.
You know, I'm not really surprised. I think that people should know that, even though I tell people all the time, we're in 2022. But slavery and racism has never gone anywhere. It was just redesigned. And I think that these situations allow us to see that this stuff is still here, is deeply embedded in the structures of the systems that are supposed to work a different way, but they always work against us. And I hope that people can start to see that more, because I think sometimes we sit back and we get comfortable thinking that because we're not actually on a plantation, we've come so far. But the truth is, we're still in the same predicaments that we were before. It's just been redesigned. I'm not surprised to hear, but maybe some of my viewers are, to know that the Ku Klux Klan is still around and they're part of the police force and they work together. And, white boys can shoot at black people and not be charged because everybody in the police department is their family and they're running together, I would say this, that I think that it comes a point in time as black people where we have to stand up and we have to find a way to continue to face the racism that some of us think is still not here. But it is, right, to this very day. And so I would just say, in ending this interview, if you both want to answer, whoever wants to answer, what would be your message to the black community that's going to see this interview and that's going to hear this? What is it that you want them to remember, take from this situation, or even what you ask of them to support in this situation? Because this victory for you is a victory for us all. When Ahmaud Arbery passed away and he got murdered, by those white men, that was the issue that was ours all, because that could have been any of our sons. As you see, that could have been your son, right? And so what do you want to say to the black community?
So when the mayor actually first heard about this kind of sound off topic, but I'm gonna bring it back around. He was like, "At least he ain't dead," That was
wow.
That's what the mayor said. So I feel like it's like that with not only just them, but black people as well. The fact that Ahmaud Arbery did die, that's what really propelled his case. And I feel like the fact that I'm still here is not propelling mine. And it's nothing against his case, nothing like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out the fact that I'm not dead. I feel like people think it's smaller than what it really is, but I could have been dead. I barely made it out with my life. So I just want them to stop thinking, oh, at least he ain't dead, or it's not my child, because one day it could be your child. Which is what we learned from the other people who children did making this stuff. We learned it from them. It could have been their child as well, and people not gonna wake up until it's their turn. So just more unity and standing beside one another like they always stand beside us. I mean, they stand beside each other. So why we can't stand beside each other like that?
No justice.
No peace.
You're watching MX Network.
One of these days we gon' burn this bitch down.